Are we ready? Hello, this is the May 12th Upper Darby Shade Tree Commission meeting. Present is Evan Hunt, a Shade Tree member. Mike Atwell is on Zoom because he's a little ill. Can he hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. And I'm Dolores Lombardi, Chair, and Joshua Chast is our liaison, and he's from LNI. So the first thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the last couple months. The April minutes are fine with me. Does Evan or Mike have anything to say about the April minutes?
No, I don't have any changes or corrections.
Okay,
Yeah, I had a couple of things.
Okay.
There's on part C, upcoming events, there's a September 12th date. Is that the right date? I don't know what that is.
that's a mistake. That should have been 4/23. That was the same day as the Rock the Block.
Let me pull it up. I'll make the correction
Just a
live.
type, something happened.
Which section?
Part C, upcoming events.
That was 412? Or,
I think
that's
it was-
not in okay, when's Rock the Block?
4/23, and the 90 trees be planted in all of Upper Darby's districts. It's part of the Rock the Block.
Okay,
It's all 4/23.
okay. Anything else?
I think that was it.
Okay, then we didn't approve March's yet because it seemed a little confusing when we read it. And I took a look at it again to try to figure out what was confusing me. And I think what it is it needs a little more detail. That is, this is the March minutes, under D, shade tree ordinance. It should say on the proposed draft ordinance, we didn't actually change the ordinance itself yet. And we should say it's not the entire section that we changed. It was the second paragraph, first two sentences. And so that makes it clear to me what was going on in that paragraph. And a couple words got truncated.
Wait, where do you want that added?
Under the March minutes,
Yes, Section D.
Section D,
Mhm.
it says hazard tree was added, blah, blah, and it says motion to change 5064 tree replacement. It was actually a motion to change the 5064 tree replacement on the proposed draft ordinance, not the actual ordinance. Yeah, we're just working on a draft. And it wasn't the whole section, 5064. It was just in the second paragraph, the first two sentences.
So could I say a portion?
What?
Could I say motion to change a portion of
Yeah,
5064?
and then that sentence got truncated. I looked it up. It lost a few words. We should say, when the Shade Tree Commission waives the tree replacement requirement, a homeowner will pay recompense into the township's tree trust fund. And then it says these funds are used to plant replacement trees in areas of the township with the greatest need. So part of that sentence got cut out. But I could email you this correction later if you want.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, so I'll just bring it up now and we can work it out later. So that's that.
You should make a motion to,
Oh,
uh,
I can't,
Approve
can
with
I make a
amended.
motion as the chair?
Evan should really.
Okay, I'll make a motion to add those changes to the March minutes.
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so our first item really just came up in the last couple days. And I actually earlier in the week had gotten a call from Jen Heath about somebody who wanted to clear some trees out of his, but I wasn't clear that, I asked her if it was township property and she didn't know. And I said, well, have him talk to an arborist. Anyway, then I heard from Faith, who got involved, I don't know how, but thankfully she did. And she went out there and met with him. And actually, Faith, if you would come up and explain everything that's going on, it would be best.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And I would clarify that I don't have all the answers either, right?
No, but at least tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so I believe, Jen had called me after talking with you, right? Because she was unclear too about the situation. We met with Dave from the township
And who's he? What's the department?
yesterday, and I believe he is, I don't know if he's head of license and inspections, but
Davis Public Works.
Yeah.
Public
Dave
Works,
from
there we
Public
go.
Works.
Managers.
Yeah.
And Jen.
And they
Yep.
were both really informative. It was great, right? Dave had a map, and my understanding is Dave had met with the landowner before, and my understanding was actually the landowner was going to be with us yesterday, but he was not. His wife was there, but she only popped out for a moment.
Wasn't, all right.
And essentially, I think what we clarified, from my understanding, again, from Dave sharing most of this information, is that there is something called a paper trail or a paper road from a development that's behind this abutting landowner. The landowner is requesting basically to clear a path through township property that's basically a paper road. But to me, it feels like it could be a pocket park, right? A little piece of natural area that's existing there. He would like to clear a little bit of, and again, this is all from Dave's discussions with this landowner. He would like to clear a path to be able to get a dump truck in there, or a truck to be able to clear part of his property. He has access, I would say, on his property as well to clear, because he's got a mowed area as well that's kind of adjacent to the paper road, or, maybe we'll call it a pocket park. But he wants another road to be kind of cleared. Now, according to Dave, also, he's saying that he would help clear some of that land for the township. Which again, from an ecological perspective, and again, I was kind of wearing a tree tender hat, right? Because I was, originally we were thinking it was all private property, hence why I went out in the first place. But knowing that it's a township parcel and this paper road concept, which zoning might want to get involved or anything like that.
What is a
If,
paper road?
yeah, like what is a paper road? And according to Dave, he said that there was a wooden fence, and then the township owns about a 40-foot right-of-way for a paper road. Paper roads, when I looked it up, again, I'm not a zoning person, but it sounds like when that development went in, the developer probably built this road that could be a road, but it never turned out to be a road.
Right.
So what's happened is, between those adjoining landowners, there's this little natural space. We talked to one homeowner who was living adjacent to this 809 Green Lane site. And he said, oh, someone wants to, there's going to be a sale, right? There's a couple little blocks there that are for sale also, which sort of for me, it sort of raised a red flag about what are the intentions of putting in a right of way to clear areas. Now that area, there are a lot of invasive plant species, but there are fox living back there. There's groundhogs. There's other different kinds of animals. It's really just like a little wildlife pocket. There are, some mile-a-minute weeds. Wineberries are in there, of course. There are some Norway maples too, but there's some beautiful silver maples. There are some young walnut trees that are, above deer height. They're probably like 20 feet tall. They have some vines growing on them. So when we talked about it, was the idea too, hey, like this could be a little pocket park, right? This could be a little area. It could also kind of be a place where the township's getting MS4 credits, right? Because it's sort of, preserving that area with all the flooding that we have. Certainly taking out some invasives would be a neat little project, right? Jen Heath, of course, was kind of open to that idea, and Dave sort of liked the idea as well. But the next step, and I had said that I would, inform Dolores, and the next step, he was hoping to get the landowner out with us so we could kind of educate about things and also kind of get a picture of really what his intentions are. It was discussed that there would be a way to put a little bit of a clearing. It was discussed a 20-foot area for him to access that spot. And again, I just felt a little bit resistant to that because I really didn't understand the paper. I worry about future intentions. I worry about if something goes for sale, would there be a way to then make that access road open to be able to subdivide other places? Those are questions I don't know, but I feel like it would be important that we would know that before we would recommend allowing access through a right-of-way that's owned by the town.
Okay, like how big is the space?
That's
Just
a good,
ballpark.
that's a good question.
That the size of a
Ah,
homeowner's property.
So I pulled up
Oh,
you
the
have it.
Delaware County access parcel map, and the sun's washing out some of the property lines a little bit. But from what I understand, this, right, this is the person.
I don't know the
809
person.
Green
809
Lane?
Green Lane, though. That is, yep.
So I'm assuming they own this parcel. It looks like it's tied to the parcel right behind it. And then it looks like this parcel here is also owned by them. All owned by the same person.
Hmm.
And then it looks like this is the right of way coming in off of Oak Lane. And that's correct. Right of way is usually just, so it was gonna be a part of the development, but then the ideas changed during construction and it was just kind of left as, a township right of way.
Does that look like what the area you were talking about? That like line coming down?
It does. And
So it
then
looks like it's
essentially
about-
and I had sent some photos to you, but essentially there's also an L. I believe the way Dave explained it, there's also an L, like perhaps they own that next parcel there that you have there. Who
That's
owns
correct,
that?
yeah. So they do appear to own this as well. So the two in red
Green
and
Lane
this one.
people own that. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
so that's what I'm saying, yep. So I believe
Oh.
that is how the property should.
Okay,
Can
and
he
he
get to
wants-
this property?
He wants to make a road on that beige path, that right away,
Right,
From
rather
Oak Lane?
than make any passageway through his own property.
correct.
I mean, I guess to me, there's like, are there various issues here, like some for L and I, or is it a zoning issue, is it a shade tree issue? What do you think, Josh?
So I got a lot of calls about a few of these properties in this area when the county did the reassessment. Because all of a sudden there was all these properties that aren't actually accessible were being, taxed like they could build on them. As far as zoning goes, it really wouldn't affect it. I just think, this is land that's not really buildable. So they're trying to make the most of it if they're paying for it. That would be my best
Oh,
guess.
you mean their land, they're trying to make, but
'Cause it's not
the
buildable right
piece of
now.
land that's owned by the township, why does the township have to provide a road for them? I guess and if they don't have to, then I would think, well, I want to leave the trees and maybe clear out invasives, but I'd also want to be careful that we clear out the invasives and that somebody who knows what they're doing marks them, because we've seen things where with good intentions, people wipe out things, or sometimes maybe not good intentions, they take advantage. So, I mean, from my perspective, I think the tree should stay, it's township property, but it sounds like it needs cleaning up. And somebody who knows, has the qualifications to know, should be marking what should stay or come out. I don't know, Evan, do you have any thoughts on it?
I don't know where
On the
access would be.
parcel map, can you
Yeah.
show like which parcel the township owns? I'm still a little confused.
If the assumption is that we own the right of way, which is something that would have to be investigated a little further.
That
But that's the
beige
assumption.
strip.
That's the assumption.
That looks
According to
like a
Dave,
road.
it's like a 40-foot, he said, I mean, I don't know, he said it was like a 40-foot section,
That's
a
probably,
linear section that
that's
goes.
probably, that's about the size of a street, plus the sidewalks.
So the street itself is 40 feet?
There's
That
no
whole
street.
strip is 40 feet?
I think the strip might be a bit wider than 40 feet. We didn't get
But he
out
wants to
the,
put a strip all the way down the center of it?
he wants to be able to access one part of his property. And the photos that I had sent, he already has, it's a very large property that he already has, and he has a lot of it manicured and mowed. This would be behind it, but there is one section that he has, actually, frankly, it has milkweed in it. It has some, beneficial things for monarchs and other things. But my understanding, according to Dave, is that he wanted to be able to access his little part and and clean it up, whatever that would mean, right? And then go through the right of way again. And it sounded like he was also willing to maybe clean up the right of way as well.
Mike, do you have any thoughts?
I'm a little curious about how he doesn't have, it looks like there's another road access like below the parcels. Like there's the right of way coming down sort of above the parcels, but is there a road that comes below the parcels as well? And the right of way, is that a green space now? Is it unpaved? Is it
That's this right
natural
here.
turf? And
That's what
Okay.
she's saying. It's got trees and wildlife in it.
Do you see
Yeah.
my pointer? This is
yes, yes,
It's all natural. It's like a little
roughly,
forest.
Yep.
and let me
Yep.
double check. Yeah, that's roughly that area.
okay,
I mean, it's a nice little privacy screen also, like sort of in the sense of, so you've got some big trees, you've got some smaller
Right.
trees, that's some walnut, there's some silver maple, there's some Norway maples in there as well.
Right.
I didn't categorize all of the trees.
right,
And then you've got some invasives, like it would be great to go in and, pull off the invasives that
Mhm.
are on the walnut trees. It'd also be really great with the trees that we have, putting in some different kind of native mid-story under, with tree shelters.
Mhm.
To kind of supplementally plant and sort of take care of it a bit
So it
and
looks
make
like-
it a little bit more of a park, but not manicured. Because again, like
Right.
if we go in and we put turf down. Or
It's
No.
another reason why you wouldn't want him to clear it. He might go in and pull out everything except the big tree.
And that was kind of the concern that was raised yesterday too. You get somebody with a dump truck going in and doing it. How do we know that it would be done correctly and sensitively? I believe the reason the township wanted me to go out too was to start flagging things, what to keep, what not to keep. But again, the landowner didn't come to the meeting, which he was apparently
Well-
going to, but then he didn't. But
Then you, Josh, are saying L&I is still investigating what the paper road means? Or,
We're not, but we could investigate, yeah, what the paper road means. If it is owned by the township or if it's just, I mean, it probably is.
well, then
Forgot by the developers.
can the
so.
shade tree make its recommendation secondary to whatever L&I wants to? I mean, I don't
Sounds like
know
it's
all
really
the.
going through, Public Works. Doesn't really sound like L&I is involved in
Okay.
anything
Oh,
well, I
outside of
am getting
research.
calls though. I got calls from Jamie from LNI.
Oh, well, maybe.
He called me last night and today he called twice. I was not able to get back with work. Because the idea was after we had talked, I said I would go back and talk with Dolores with the Shade Tree Commission, but essentially we talked about the idea of going out with this landowner, kind of getting an intention of what he wants to do and kind of educating a bit about how turf might not be the best
there-
thing either, but.
Did
it
he
does seem
mention,
like
did he
L&I
mention turf? Did he mention like the idea of like turfing it or something like that? Because it seems
Yeah.
like it could be an opportunity to partner with the landowners to do some improvements without having to sacrifice some beneficial plants and the kind of the learning opportunity and maybe a model kind of partnership between the township and the residents.
That could be a thought. I mean, again, depending on how we would do that. And again, I would think we just want to make sure that giving that access doesn't create something
Right.
that we want, right?
Definitely.
And that is kind of what Dave shared too. Oh, wouldn't this be great if we were able to clean this up a bit?
Mhm.
And not, and sort of have him help with some of that, but then really keeping most of the trees and doing other things as well, but
Yes.
not really clearing it. And again, I think, most residents think of cleaning up something as really creating grass. I mean,
Yes.
and again, like functionally speaking, from the ecological perspective, that piece of land as it is now, even with the invasives, it may not
Mhm.
look beautiful to your eyes, aesthetically appealing, but it is creating floodwater retention, it's holding, it's
Sure.
percolating ground through,
Yep.
it's creating wildlife habitat. And these are all really important things for our township with a lot of flooding. So I think it's also that fine tuning of trying to educate so that it's not, a manicured piece of something isn't always the answer.
Mhm.
Even with it being, looking a little bit unkempt, right? There's a function there.
Faith, does it seem like the kind of place that collects litter and like beer
No.
bottles and hangouts? It's not like that, right?
No, there was actually, I didn't see one single piece of litter in it, to be honest.
Oh, that's great.
And there is, and the thing is, from Oak Lane, there is a little section, that's actually very cute. The corner property, which is also for sale, by the way, there's a house on it, but it looks like they planted cute little orchard trees kind of along the right away. It's sort of pretty. You could put orchard trees in there too. It'd be kind of a beautiful little spot because some of it is manicured already. And then there's an area where he could access, like when we're clearing invasives, right? And you think about taking a truck, right? We do it all the time, on our family farm. You take a truck and there'd be plenty of room to kind of put a bunch of multiflora rose in the back of your truck and get rid of it, even from his access point.
Right.
But I think, the idea was, maybe let's meet with the landowner, get more heads together.
But can we make some kind of preliminary recommendation now, and that could, like, I'd like to say that the Shade Tree Commission would only approve clearing invasives and weeds at this point, under the direction of someone like Faith, who knows what's going on. And then as you work with the landowner, if you come up with a plan, you can bring it back. But I'd like to say at this point, and that he should himself investigate putting his roadway for his dump trucks through his own property, rather than using the townships. I mean, that's how I feel. Do Mike or Evan have any ideas?
I think that's a sound recommendation, Dolores. A stepwise fashion seems reasonable,
So
The first,
for
the
now,
first, the first stage sounds very agreeable from our standpoint, and I can't imagine the residents would have a problem with it.
all right, I can't, you want to make a motion then? The chair can't make a motion, so I need,
Yeah, I guess I would say I'll make a motion that we communicate with the landowner that we're interested and would be open to removing some invasive species and to I don't know what's the rest of the
no.
to remove invasive species and to survey the property to determine future steps.
Oh, that sounds good.
Sure, I'll second that.
Right, and we want to make, at this point, though, we want it clear that we do that, not him at this point.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
want him to go in tomorrow and start
that's
cutting down
correct.
some
That's
invasives
correct.
All right,
The tree commission and the property owner in tandem. Yes.
okay, so in tandem is a good
Yes.
phrase.
All in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye,
Aye.
okay,
All right.
so that's what we'll do.
Thank you.
That's our,
That's great.
now,
That's
how does this
great.
get, we need to communicate our motion tonight to what, Jen and Dave in public?
I think
Works?
Jen and Dave and Jamie, I don't know how you want to, if you want me to call Jamie back, he has called me multiple times. You can recommend how you want to do that. I'll go out whenever you're all ready
If
to
you
go
want to
out.
call him and just say, we made this motion tonight, and
Okay.
I can type, well, did you write down the motion exactly?
I'll have to go back and listen
Okay,
to the
well then,
recording.
we can type it out and at least send it to Jen right away, as soon as we get it typed, and then we can figure out when to meet again later.
That sounds great.
Why is Jamie involved? How did he become
I really don't
involved?
know. I mean, my understanding, I mean, I guess, I don't know. And maybe Dave would be a better person, but David said this would be the next step. I believe he also wanted Jamie to kind of learn a little bit of the things that we were talking about, right? In the sense of species and things like that, but that's.
Okay.
Is there a plan to follow up with the landowner?
Is there a plan?
Yeah, are you gonna go out and meet with him again?
That's actually what we had talked about doing. I think, and that's why Jamie was calling to say, hey, when do you want to go out with the landowner? And again, I haven't returned his calls quite yet, just because it was just yesterday.
Yeah, this just sort of came out.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if and I also just
So
don't
when
know if
you
there's
make a
an
meeting,
urgency.
You'll tell us when the meeting is, and say, Evan, if you can go, when you want to go, you can go to
Yeah,
the
one of us
meeting.
should try and get out
Right.
there.
Yeah, we'll set it up
Yes,
actually. so that
definitely.
at least one or two of you can
Probably
go. I
is-
think it'd be great.
Is
Mhm.
it better in the evening, like because it is light till 9 o'clock now, so that people can get there after work. Is that good for you? Yeah, better than like not midday. And Mike, maybe some evening?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Okay, so you'll let
Okay.
us know in 1 or 2
We'll make
or-
sure the date works for everyone, exactly. That sounds
All right,
good.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for doing this.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah. And I
thank
just
you,
wanna give
Faith.
And this is just some information on river-friendly versus conventional gardens. I just brought them because I think they're kind of important. I mean, it's all things you know, but I was going to put a packet together for the landowner as well to educate him. Thank you.
That's terrific.
Now, I've had this thought before, but this issue with this 809 Green Lane, and another issue that Jen Heath called me about, someone who lives out in the Gillespie Park area, I'm not exactly sure what street, in her view, in some of the forests were dead trees, 3 dead trees, and she felt the township wasn't taking care of them and should cut them down. Now, it turns out those trees are not on the trail, they're in the foresty area, they're not where they're going to fall and hurt anybody, and Jen didn't even know how she would get up there to cut them. But often in nature, when they're not near where they're going to potentially hurt anyone, those dead trees serve a function. The bugs
Definitely.
grow, eating them, and then the birds eat the bugs, they make nests, et cetera. So, but with these things coming up, I realize I'm not a certified arborist or anything, and we used to have a township tree advisor in the form of Clyde Hunt, up until not that long ago, because he sort of retired slowly. But even I think 5 or 6 years ago, I remember him going out to check on some tree that some person had called about. And I don't know who fulfills that role now. And Faith is really doing this pro bono, right, Faith?
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't have Faith willing to get up and run out there, we're kind of stuck. So I think I want the shade tree to begin to maybe investigate options about how we can fill this gap. Like, could we look at what other townships do? Could we get somebody on some kind of retainer contract where they come when needed? I mean, they're not maybe full-time, but so that's something I want. And then we'd have to come up with that recommendation, and then we'd have to, I assume, pursue it with the administration and maybe council. Would that be right, Laura? So, do you guys, anybody want to make a motion that we at least begin to pursue by looking, and I think Bonnie said she'd help look into this too, by talking to people in other townships and even talking to PHS for recommendations, because we used to have this person and now we don't, and we do need it. So,
Yeah, I'd say let's make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that the tree commission investigate what other townships do as far as having a tree advisor available to consult for us. And also perhaps reach out to the PHS for ideas and expertise on how to move ahead with having a different level of expertise available to the commission.
right. I mean, ultimately, in the long run, I'd love it if we could have an arborist that was hired who could oversee all our trees, but we do need somebody at least for certain things now.
LNI has a similar need.
Yeah. So I'll
Wow,
second the motion.
great.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, okay, so we'll do that. We'll start looking around and come up maybe in the next month or so with a list of
You
options.
may want to culminate all of that into a letter that you can send to the administration or council,
Right,
signed by the.
Mhm. That's a good idea.
For a certified arborist?
Right, so we have the same issue where, and these aren't necessarily street trees, but a dangerous tree that we really don't have the ability to determine if it is dangerous. We can make
Right.
our best guess, but nobody in
Right.
LNI is an arborist.
I mean, my first instinct is to say prune it first and see what happens, but if it's worse than that, I shouldn't be giving that advice. Well, do we want to write a letter just that we're going to be doing this, or do we want to wait until we put things, we'll put things together?
Have solutions. with
Okay,
the
once we
request.
put together some options, we'll write a letter and we'll get it going. Okay, then another thing is, I meant to go over a quick review of our spring plantings. I'm sorry, I skipped that. That was number 2. I think overall it went pretty well. The Shade Tree Commission planted the Second Ward playground, which Mike supervised. And I think you're happy with that. Mike, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
Okay.
it went well
Okay.
with one exception. Yes, I mean the planting itself was done well.
Okay. And then the planting, I think, on the Darby Creek Trail, that was a nice afternoon. A lot of good people came out to help plant the trees. The township got the holes dug, which was a little challenge to figure out where they could go and to get them in, but they did. And everyone sort of planted them with care. And then Faith was out there recently, and she said they are beginning to leaf out, and they've been mulched,
Nice.
and they were staking them like the day before yesterday.
Awesome.
So, and all this great rain we got made me happy because it was surprising how dry the dirt was along the creek. It was drier than other places, and I was kind of worried about those trees. So we got a good rain. Hopefully they're on their way. Okay, so now that we're done that big weekend, which was kind of exhausting between all the events, we want to look towards like, what is the Shade Tree Commission going to aim for over the next year? And so I looked up for grant opportunities, and I found two interesting scenarios. And I have a copy of both of these grants in your little handout. One is called a Tree Days Grants application, and the other is a TD Green Space grant. Now, the Tree Days grant application is a little smaller, and it seems maybe a little easier to organize in some ways, but the problem is that it would be due June 1st. If we're going to apply for it this year, they award amounts of $5,000 to $12,000. They want these projects to be in low to moderate income neighborhoods, and I copied an example of on the next page, someone who had been awarded or some more information about it, and they're definitely looking for lower to middle class neighborhoods, also areas that don't have a lot of tree canopy. And in Upper Darby really fits the bill for this grant, I think. They need to be in a public space. The land is privately owned, but functions as a park with public access is also acceptable, but basically public space. And we are in one of the eligible communities, and the whole project would take place from November, has to happen in the months of November to September to November. They want largest trees. They have to be taller than 35-foot trees. And
At full growth.
when they're full grown, right.
Right.
But they don't want us to be planting like dogwoods for this project.
Okay.
And projects with a minimum of 30 to 50 trees are preferred. So it would be great if we could use this grant. And Evan had suggested, and I agreed, a place like 69th Street or Garrett Road could use a lot of trees, right?
Yeah, we'd have to check if street trees were eligible for this, but I think they would be.
Yeah, I think so, because it's public right-of-way land. And also, here in the second paragraph, parks, nature trails, and heavily trafficked roads that lack sufficient percentage of tree canopy. So that seems to me, on the TD Bank Celebrate, I highlighted it in yellow, the paragraph that describes what the grant's for. And of course, we could try to call somebody and ask, I think I sent an email to someone who's in charge of this to ask if tree cutouts would be okay. She did reply to my email with basic information, but she didn't mention anything about the cutouts. Anyway, but my question is, say we decide, okay, we want to plant 69th Street. Do we have permission? Like, does the township, can they just decree that they're going to plant 69th Street and pick spots and plant it? Or do they need permission from the building owners?
No, it's township right of way. The biggest hurdle would just be working with Public Works, getting them on board.
Right.
And the 35-foot majority tree,
Well, I think,
but it's near the Pico line. So as long as it's not-
well, we'd have to pick out spots. Are they on both sides of the street there?
I don't remember.
I don't think 69th Street has lines
No, I
over
don't
the sidewalk.
Well, it's a, do you guys, Evan and Mike, think it's something we could aim for this year, or need to take our time on and aim for next year? It's an annual grant. Because I know that next week's the election, I'm a judge of elections, I've got to read all the information, it's like studying for an exam, and then the day's long, so I wouldn't, you know.
It's really close. I mean,
Yeah.
we're the second week of May already.
Right, so we'd have
I
to,
hate to let an opportunity go by, but,
right.
um,
But I was
doesn't-
thinking, first, I guess we'd have to get the mayor interested, right? If the mayor said, I like the idea, and then we just surveyed the streets and got a sense of the number of trees, couldn't we just put the application through? Because
how would
don't
we-
have to do it.
how would we price like what we were asking for?
Well, I
like,
know
would-
that,
Would
The
we
trees
price the labor of the township employees to cut the concrete and things like that, or?
well, my thought was we would, if the grant covers cutting concrete, we hire somebody to cut the concrete.
Okay,
I think it's like around $200 a hole.
oh, is it?
And
Okay, I didn't have
Yeah,
an
and a
idea about
tree-
what it would,
Well, we could call somebody to get more
Sure.
specific.
sure,
You could put a tree at $100 a tree. Whether we get a bare root tree from PHS, after after the first 30, you can get them at $100 a tree.
mm-hmm,
Or we could buy them from somewhere, slightly bigger ones, but potted it. Maybe
Mhm.
to 90 to 100. So I'm thinking 3 to 350 a tree.
okay,
To apply for a grant, you're gonna want letters of support from anybody that you can get them from. So, mayor, council,
Well, we'd
residents.
have to have the mayor's permission.
Right, to
right.
do any contracts, but
And then we'd have to get a letter of support from council, you think? And it'd be good.
yeah, let's let.
Ask Laura.
Someone who would know.
So normally, the administration presents a resolution for applying for our grants
Okay.
so that council can approve it. We do have a meeting on the 25th of May. So if you get it together enough in order for them to be able to apply it and have a resolution for us to
On the
vote on
25th.
the 25th of May. But yeah, you definitely want to get the mayor on it. And I mean, I know the township has grant writers, so, because
They
we
could
apply
wor-
for grants all the
We could work
time.
with the grant writer.
Right. So you definitely reaching out to Mayor Keffer ASAP and talking to her about this and, getting her on board.
Well, I'll get in touch with the mayor.
Yep.
If she's interested, I'm not sure that it would be that hard because we don't have to, we just have to we could put 25 trees here and 25 there and then we could apply for it. Just put,
Right.
mhm,
speculate on,
rough it out, yep,
yeah, maybe call I remember years ago, I had gotten the names of people that the township used for making cutouts.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's probably an old list, but call somebody who does that and get the idea of what it would cost. I think it's
Right.
around
And there are
200.
some seating spaces along 69th Street where there are benches where putting a tree there would be really cool. I thought there were some cutouts, but maybe there weren't. And it looks, I mean, the sidewalks are in poor condition on 69th Street. Maybe it's just all the gum on the road, on the sidewalk. But I think, it would definitely help for the township to beautify the
Right, it's
69th
just a matter
Street.
of, so
walkway.
we'll see if the mayor likes the idea.
Yeah.
If she likes the idea and we can jump on it, it may not be that complicated because we don't have to put programs together. Then either Evan or Mike or all of us, we would have to go survey the street. Like, do we want, you mentioned
Sure,
Garrett Road,
sure.
just one street or both, maybe just,
It would depend how many spots there are.
okay, so.
But I don't think it's that complicated.
No.
I think we could put it
Yeah.
together.
Right.
Mhm.
The slowest part is making sure the township gets on board with us. And then we have okay, so let's give it a shot.
okay,
Want to make a motion that we will talk to the mayor and then proceed from there?
Probably don't have to make a motion. for
Okay,
that.
no motion. That's what we'll do. We'll talk to the mayor and we'll see what she says and
Yeah.
proceed from there. So that would be a nice thing if we can get it.
Well, actually, I guess we won't have another meeting before that.
no,
So the motion might want to be to apply for the grant.
To apply for the grant,
Might make a little bit more sense.
given
yeah.
everything falls in place. in
Right, just because
time.
we won't be meeting again to look at the
Okay.
final application.
All right, I'll move to apply for the grant and try to present it on the 25th, you said?
I second.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go for it. Now, this other grant, which is again a TD grant, a green space grant, Bonnie had applied for it for this year with something related to the tree nursery and programs, but she didn't get the grant this time. And this is a big grant. You can get like $20,000. The other one, the TD Tree Days grant, is between $5,000 and $12,000. But it's a more complicated thing in that they're looking for groups, working with the community and putting together some programs. Now, what I also learned is that they have a different theme for each year, and they haven't published a theme yet. So, but it's not due until December. So this is just something just to start talking about, we don't have to make any full decisions about yet. But in terms of like working with the community, about a few years ago, Laura and other people in the 4th District started a 4th District community group. And that we sort of opened our group with an Earth Day festival. And I believe that was 2019. And so, and which was to become an annual event, but COVID kind of got in the way of that becoming an annual event. But it was quite an event. The tree tenders came, we gave tree plants away, we had demonstrations on mulching, we had a band, we had Clyde there with his trees. Anyway, it seemed to me like that would be a foundation to begin to work on some ideas over the summer. Like that group, we have to meet with them and see how we could grow into something. And I did attach here our examples of different communities that got grants and what they did with them. And some of them are into these community gardens and long-term things, but other ones are just like taking a section of their town that has no tree coverage and making it better. And if you look at this one in Vermont, it's on the last page. They got a tree, one of the green space grants, and what they did is they planted 200 trees in their old north end, which had some of their poorest people and their lowest canopy coverage. So it seems to me like these grants can be flexible in what they do, but at least in last year's, I got the feeling they really wanted community involvement. So I had little ideas floating in my head of what we could do, but if that group gets back together this summer, they'll be working on their Earth Day event, and that could be a kickoff, because these grants don't get awarded until April. So we couldn't use it for Earth Day, but we could start something that we can work on things over the summer for eventual plantings in the fall. So you guys like that idea of?
I love that idea.
Okay, so that'll all depend on if the 4th District group comes together and is interested in working on this. Yes, Laura.
And I should say my name, Laura Wentz, Vice President of Council, also resident of 4th District, and one of the founders, like Dolores, of the 4th District Community Group. Our Earth Day event that we had in 2019 was excellent. We had a whole variety of things. As she had said, as Dolores had said, Gerald was there with his composting. In fact, someone won a composting setup that Gerald had created for them. We did little libraries, one that was also given away. We had all kinds of how to recycle, reuse, repurpose. The county Parks and Recs was there with information, the fire department, whole lot of groups were there. And it was definitely something that we do want to get back into doing. And I know we want to do it for next year, hoping that COVID is down to a non-existent realm.
Hopefully it could be outside more too.
Right. And yeah, so definitely our group is definitely interested. We just got to get the ball rolling back into doing things. And there are a lot of other events, and a lot of our members have taken part in cleanups. throughout COVID, handing out food to people, helping out with the shade tree, with the different events that happened over Arbor Day and so forth, just recently. So our group is working, we've just been not working as a.
Been
as the-
slowed down by COVID.
We were slowed down by COVID, and so we are definitely working on rebooting the equation, but I think, I know a sycamore tree was cut down in my neighborhood. It was a beautiful, healthy tree, but now it's no longer. And a lot of trees have been cut down. And also with Cobb's Creek Golf Course cutting down 100 acres worth of trees and
Right behind
forests.
you.
Right behind us, we're along the 100 line. It affects over 2,000 residents in Upper Darby who looks out upon the Cobb's Creek Golf Course to now see a, desolated, all these trees on the ground. Some were dead, but the majority were healthy trees that created homes for critters and wildlife that are now searching for a home in our
But I
neighborhood.
think these points that,
And-
where that whole tree cut down happened right behind these homes in the 4th district.
Right.
Is all stuff that would bolster, a reason for us needing grant money
Yes.
to help build up what we can.
Yes, and I mean, I was just out on Carroll Boulevard today, South Carroll Boulevard today, and I know a tree had recently been cut down there. It's a very sunny street. There are not a whole lot of trees along that street.
Used to be, though.
Used to be, right. And, Fairview's the same way, where there's a lot of street space, street tree land where trees could go.
Lawns, I
Tree
call
lawn,
them.
right.
Right.
Where it would be great to be putting some trees back.
And potentially with this grant, they say half of the 20,000 is spent on trees, the other half for other things. Like, we have so many different kinds of neighborhoods in the 4th district. Some of the townhouses, row houses, we could maybe do some cutouts.
Right,
So
and,
do a variety of things.
right, and if we can do trainings on rain gardens, I know that, Delaware River Keeper, the tree commissions have trainings on rain gardens, the rain barrels, right? Doing more with rain barrels. I know I have one, I want a second one. The more rain barrels we have, the, better we can do to reuse the rainwater and, water our plants and not have to waste water.
Okay.
So, yeah, no,
So,
it's
okay.
excellent idea. We'd love to work with
I
you
think
on
we
it.
don't need to make a motion on this because we're just going to investigate this over the summer.
Yep,
So
Yep.
it will all depend on what the people want to do, what we do with this grant.
yes. And I
Right.
also, when you guys do the meeting with 809 Green Lane, I would love to be a part of that too.
Okay, add
Just a
Laura.
little wanted to add that in.
Okay,
Thank you.
good, thank you. Add Laura. All right. Then another thing that came up is the new webpage for the township is up. And, like Evan had pointed out, that the shade tree page was, a little peculiar. I suspect they just put something in as a starter page. I don't know, no one told me. But I think we can put our thoughts together on what we want to
Mhm.
have on it over the next month. We can do some of this by email. But,
Yes.
figure out what we went on there and we're, come up with something better. So we'll do that, all right?
Mhm.
I used to make web pages like, I don't know, late 90s, so I haven't done it in a long time, but I have at least a feel for them. Now, is there any other issue anybody wants to bring up tonight? Okay, we're good. So, somebody want to make a motion to close the meeting?
Move to close the meeting.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. It makes a big difference.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Dolores, Evan, Josh.
I'm glad
We
you
really
could
have
come in.
productive meetings, and
Right.
it's because of all of you. So, Josh, thanks so much.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna close it.